Just in time for the Halloween season, Luigi's Mansion 3 is one of the most eye-catching games on Switch. The reason? Well, the remarkable thing about it is how closely its visual identity can fall in line with a CG film. Expressive character animations and superb lighting let developer Next Level Games push a mobile chipset far beyond what you'd expect. We've seen other games of course give this visual style a try. Only this year, Kingdom Hearts 3 mimics some pretty major CG productions in real time on Unreal Engine 4. And yet, harnessing in-house engine tech, what we're seeing here is a shock technical feat for Switch in its own right. So let's take a closer look. First off, Luigi's Mansion 3 is a uniquely interactive game. It builds on the concept started with the GameCube original back in 2001, shown here running on 3DS, in myriad ways. Armed with the Poltergust, a kind of Ghostbusters-style Hoover, Luigi manipulates world physics and lighting to work through each area. Switch is now capable of bigger, more lavishly detailed areas this time of course. It's a point that's reflected in the move away from, well, a mansion to a massive hotel block. Each room within it though presents as a kind of physics playground, as you scout for keys to unlock new areas higher up the hotel. These are crammed with objects to tinker with. In fact, the sheer density of objects littering the screen is often staggering. The best bit? Almost every one of these objects is interactive. The scope for physics interplay is much broader on Switch, and it pays off hugely in world building. Some bits of the scene can be knocked over passively by Luigi, stacks of luggage and furniture have heft, but they do nudge slowly to the side with enough momentum. Other objects? They need the force of your trusty Poltergust to blow over. Plates smash, papers float, and dresses pull back on the coat line, thanks to a form of cloth physics. You can create absolute havoc if you like, but there's a point to this. It's your best bet to revealing secrets, and progression really depends on that physics-based logic. This third outing goes far beyond what the recent 3DS port and sequel did, and it makes it feel like a true next-gen leap on Nintendo hardware. The animation work really is the key here. All running in real time, facial expressions and body movements are carefully keyframed here to propel the story. And it has to be. I mean, the voice acting often comes out in short bursts of gibberish phrases, and so it falls on the physicality of Luigi and friends to sell it. Every detail matters. The way the contours of Luigi's lips contorts, his eyes widen during a scare, everything is heightened, to a point that it has similarities to a Pixar or DreamWorks feature. Even in gameplay, that detail carries right over. A jump scare, for example, triggers a new set of panicked animations on Luigi. His arms flail, he'll skip on the spot, but crucially, the game keeps you in control of the movement. Another key to hitting this high visual bar is in its lighting. Dynamic shadows are a staple of the series of course, and it returns again here in style. Luigi's flashlight creates stencil shadows across the scene. Wherever you point, you'll get a perspective-correct silhouette across the wall. Lightning strikes and even candlelight has an impact on the intensity of that shade too. The combination of light shows how dynamic it all is, and helps create extra movement in the scene as well. It's not perfect, aliasing is in view, with stair-stepping often going untreated. Even so, it's very impressive stuff. One of the standout visual moments of the game though is its opener. From the bus trip in to the hotel lobby, everything is absolutely saturated in bloom. Light shafts stream down through the window above, and the whole scene bursts with a kind of gold tint. It's saccharine sweet, deliberately artificial, but a great counterpoint to the dark turn the hotel takes later. One of the surprising extras here is the use of screen space reflections. Luigi gets a mirror image across the floors and later into the game too. There's even proper mirrors in elevators which, while running at a dialed back resolution, gives the same effect and even plays a role in puzzle solving. All told, there's very little to dislike about the visual package. From lighting to physics to animations, it's all very polished. To nitpick, there's a form of anti-aliasing in play, but it's not always very thorough. Even with Switch docked under a TV, you'll catch rough edges, visual noise here and there on long bright edges. It's the only part that detracts from the filmic quality it has. In cutscenes, it's a lesser issue than gameplay, I've noticed, where we even have a bokeh depth of field enabled, further disguising the artifacting. Also, these scenes could go one further by adding a form of per object or full screen motion blur. That really would be the last thing to tip the cutscenes into film territory. Otherwise, they're a delight to watch. Speaking on image quality, there's a big divide between portable and docked play on Switch. I did some digging into this, and pixel counts show it running at 1920 by 1080 while docked on Switch, at least for gameplay. In cutscenes, that appears to hold up too, but there are parts of the frame which come in at 1600 by 900, suggesting a dynamic resolution setup. This could be the depth of field, but 900p is a very typical reading during cutscenes, especially in the hotel lobby cutscene with so much going on. As for portable play, the game renders at 1280 by 720, which is pretty predictable, but again we see the effective resolution drop in cutscenes to 1066 by 600 lowest. So there is a range, but overall, and to show a side-by-side comparison, it's mostly a 720p versus 1080p split. There are a few other differences in moving to portable mode. The idea is to hit a 30fps target, which I'll get onto later. Adjusting the engine load to achieve that while handheld does involve some settings being dropped. A classic one is texture filtering is lower grade on Switch, used purely as a handheld. Expect blurrier surfaces at an angle, but on the whole it's not a massive cutback, especially on the smaller screen. The other two big differences are in shadow quality. This sticks out more obviously. Shadow resolution, like in this cutscene, are low resolution in general. It creates this vaguer outline to objects as you navigate the world, but hardly a deal breaker. More subtle is the drop in ambient occlusion quality because, yes, this game does appear to use it to add shade in between objects. There's a difference in the way it appears between docked and portable play on Switch. Otherwise, the two modes of playing are very much like for like. It's the drop to 720p that, I'd suspect, is the biggest GPU saver, but clearly this wasn't enough for the developer, who saw fit to prune back shadow settings as well. The payoff? Well, ideally you'll be looking at a stable 30fps. I'd say for the most part that's what we're getting here. A look at docked performance shows it hitting an average of 30fps even in some of the most taxing physics heavy scenes. But of course you'll notice there's still a lingering issue with frame pacing in the game. So expect fluctuations on that left side graph, and overall for docked play to not feel quite as smooth as it could be. This is punctuated by some genuine hitches too. Automatic save points will trigger a stutter, and likewise there are moments in the lobby which will show some deviations under 30fps as the pillars up front overlap with that background detail. It seems like more of a GPU bandwidth contention issue than anything else, but very rare in my experience. The turnout for portable play meanwhile is much the same in performance. Saving will give you that momentary freeze very occasionally, but it's on average as stable as docked play. The frame time issue is still a problem, and likewise, even taking this chase scene with lots of objects being pushed around, the Switch CPU isn't being overloaded. It's still generally in the right area for 30fps playback. As another plus, Luigi's Mansion 3 isn't the sort of game that really relies on fast gameplay or quick reflexes necessarily. The most challenging parts involve sucking ghosts up, but otherwise it's largely spent at an idle walking pace, exploring the world. Not a perfect 30fps then, but the troubles it has shouldn't distract. Luigi's Mansion 3 shows what good, dedicated development for Switch can bring. I've covered plenty of ports to the console this month, all with different compromises next to PS4 or Xbox One. Each conversion plays to the strengths of running it on a portable machine, but exclusives built for that Tegra X1 chipset like this let the console shine. In Luigi's Mansion 3 we have a pure adventure puzzler with some terrific visual features, in physics and lighting especially. If you have a Switch and want to see it pushing some of the best visuals on the system, this is well worth a look.
Ellie.
That's all I have time for today. If you did like this analysis, feel free to like or subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications as any new video lands. To get a pristine, high quality version of this video, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch directly, just use Twitter. But from me for now, thanks for watching.
Let's do it. Ta-da! Oh, yeah!